Hello everyone, this is Mr. Informal bringing you the latest and greatest Mr. Informal podcast. I go by the name of Mr. Informal. Hopefully you are doing well, hopefully you are being safe, and certainly hopefully everything's alright with you. So this is the podcast 130 and there are 4 topics for today. But first, again, do not forget to add me on Instagram. That's MisterInformal. Then check out my website. Got some goodies there and also some blogs. MrInformal.com. MrInformal.com. So what are the 4 topics for the Mr. Informal podcast? Well, number 1, WhatsApp is adding a messages that can be deleted over time. Reminds me of Snapchat. Number 2, Levi's is shuffling their leadership inside. Number 3, Clark's shoemaker has been sold. And certainly last but not least, number 4, as things are ramping up in the warehouse, a lot of people that being hired with pack and ship and also other stuff. Automation has been expedited to, double, triple, whatever. Certainly, more things are being made much faster. More things are being shipped much faster. So those are the 4 topics for this Mr. Informal podcast. And please, again, do not forget to add me on Instagram and also check out my website. And so let's get on with the podcast. So topic number 1 from hypebeast.com. WhatsApp will now let you send disappearing messages. That is the title. So starting today, basically could be yesterday, could be tomorrow, WhatsApp's 2 billion worldwide users will have the ability to send messages that disappears after 7 days on Android and iOS system. The 7-day countdown to continue whether the messages is read or not. At the beginning, when the message is sent, individual users can enable feature in direct messages, but in groups, the admin must turn on the disappearing message function. WhatsApp stated that it's maintaining end-to-end description with a new feature, added significantly to the time it took to develop. But even prior to today's announcement, some users reported seeing facts on disappearing messages appearing on company's website as early as March 2020. The 7-day limit is the only time frame for now, but WhatsApp is already toying with expanding possibilities. We will keep an eye on feedback about how people are using it and liking it and see if it needs adjusting in the future. Now, I like this feature in terms of privacy. Everything's good with it. I also like this feature when it comes to messaging your friends, your family, loved ones, whoever, relatives, doesn't matter, because people need to read their text messages. Some people ignore it, and I find that to me annoying, and so I will, having this feature, it gives them a sense of having to read it. Even if the message disappears, at least they read it or not. But the fact that gives people time for them to read it, it could be replied that people need to reply to their messages sometimes, and people don't understand that the person that will text you, you never know, they might disappear, they might pass by, and you don't realize how much people times are worth. And then when the person is gone, that's when you realize that maybe you should have read it or replied to it. And I guess it takes something like that for people to finally notice something in their attitude, in their personality, or in their ways. I'm not saying that it will be the cause of people replying and finally reading people's messages. I think by having a limit, it gives a bit of more motivation for people to read it, to reply it. And to me, I think it's always courteous. It's always very disciplinary and mannerism to show that you care about people. And lastly, certainly privacy, because our government is spying on us, even though they're not really directly spying on us, but they keep records of us. And so this is a great thing to have. And it reminds me of Snapchat. Now, the question is that will this compete with Snapchat? Of course it will compete with Snapchat. I mean, now when you add this, what's the point of having Snapchat? I think WhatsApp probably has more users now than before, where Snapchat used to probably, which was much more better, but now WhatsApp is just much better now compared to Snapchat. And by having this, I mean, Snapchat has to do something with it. So we'll see how this goes, and we'll see how users like me will feel about this. But certainly I feel good about this, and certainly by having something that disappears in 7 days, I mean, you could have this good and bad. That's all I can say about that. On to topic number 2. Levi's will shuffle their senior leadership. And so this article is from retail.com, titled Levi's shuffle senior leadership to focus on digital strategy. So Levi Strauss & Co. today announced a series of executive changes as part of the brand's effort to focus on direct-to-consumers and its digital transformation. The company promoted Chief Marketing Officer Jen Say to Brand President, Liz O'Neill to Chief Operations Officer, and Seth Ellison to Chief Commercial Officer. Mark Rosen, Executive Vice President and President of the Americas, will oversee the new Digital Enterprise Office, managing technology, business, and data and artificial intelligence. Leaders say per company statement. Each of the executive promoted will report to Chip Bergh, President and CEO of the company, and will be tasked facilitating the brand's growth strategy. So basically, they're diversifying their system, but certainly they are starting to focus more on the digital aspects of it, whether it be e-commerce or social media, to promote more in to consumers. I mean, whatever that means, but whatever. At the same time, they're also cutting 700 non-retail and non-manufacturing jobs internationally. Wow. So, I mean, Levi's can shuffle all they want. I'm gonna be honest with you. They can shuffle all they want. They can promote the digital consumers more, but I mean, after this pandemic, I mean, we're all gonna go back to normal. I'm not saying right away. Slowly, it's gonna be a slow transition. But it's all about the end product, and I feel as though no matter what, Levi's will change or shuffle their management. And before I continue, I just want to make sure that I don't understand why employees get laid off but they don't get shuffled, and yet the management gets shuffled. And well, anyways, continuing on, is that the end product is not the same Levi's anymore. It just isn't. Every time you go to the store, it's always spandex, Levi's Flex, Levi's Stretch, whatever. And so the 501, the original 501, is not the same anymore. Let's be honest. The classic 501s are not the same anymore. And even if they are, the fabric is not the same anymore. It's not the same quality type of fabric anymore. I'm talking about the Levi's Shrink to Fit and their straight cuts. Let's be honest, it's not the same type of Levi's anymore. So Levi is not the quality that we expect him to be, especially for the number one jean maker in the world. And how do I know? Well, I mean, I previously worked for a jean company. I can't say who or what, but I can certainly tell you that we had better fabrics than Levi's did. And so, I mean, Levi's is trying to, I guess, make sure that they're on top of they're still number one, and they're catching up with digital or direct to consumers. But Levi's just doesn't seem to understand that when it comes to women and men's, they always have to go to the store to try on Levi's. That's all it is. It doesn't matter if you have a new digital enterprise and the kind of automation or even the kind of data and analytics that you have. And man, there was a time when Levi's, you knew your size. When you know your size, that's it. That's the size. That's the fabric. That's the color you want. But nowadays you can't. It's hard because Levi's quality is not the same anymore, and this is what I've been trying to explain. Now, is this numbers going to give is this type of shuffling going to give Levi's the lead, or even a better lead? I'd say no. Well, this Levi, certainly it will give advantage to Levi's as to what kind of consumer spending that we are doing as consumers. It will give them an idea, but it still doesn't change the fact that we as consumers still need to go to the store and try on Levi's. And so we'll see how this goes. But the shuffling thing, I'm not so sure if it's a good idea. I think it's more of the end product in the end. Because if you don't have a good quality end product, then what's the point of shuffling all this thing? And what's the point of going to e-commerce more? And Levi's need to understand that and not forget that once this is over, consumers are still going to go back to retail store to try on Levi's. So on to the third topic. I'm not really happy about this, but it is what it is. From retail.com, shoe seller Clarks strikes deal to be taken over by a private equity firm. And so, if it's a private equity firm, they're gonna raise the prices, lower the quality. So, the UK-based shoe brand and retailer Clarks has sold a majority stake in company to Hong Kong-based private equity firm Lion Rock Capital. The investment amounted to £100 million, approximately $131 million at press time. It's not a lot, but whatever. According to a press release from Lion Rock, it ends an era of family ownership of 195-year-old brand, though the Clark family remains a key shareholder in the business. The deal is still subject to shareholder and regulatory approval. Lion Rock said investment will allow Clarks, which has a large U.S. footprint, to execute out on a previously announced strategic plan. The parties also said it would allow Clarks to expand globally, including China and Asia Pacific countries. Like, they didn't do that earlier? I mean, are you serious? Anyways, Clark signaled a restructuring of its business that entailed up to 900 job cuts over 18 months as it looked to focus on digital and social channels. It also announced that it reviewing its funding operation with advisors after closing its stores amid COVID-19, according to news report from the time. Well, Lion Rock. I'm not happy about it. Should you happy about it? No. Will they expand globally? Yes, I think there's some brand growth in there, but I think even before this, even before they sold their majority of the stake, I think they had the potential to grow globally. Expand. Did they not do that? So it looks like it's a case of management decision. It looks like it's a case of mismanagement. It looks like it's a case of just everything wrong in the upper management except the employees, and yet the employees get fired. 900 job cuts. So first and foremost, I'm not happy about this because the quality is gonna go down. I already know the quality will go down, and yet the price will go up. That's all it is. And then they're gonna and the Clark's company is gonna make it look like Clark is a luxury product, even though the quality is not going to be the same. So that's number one. And number two, that this investment firm wants their money. So pretty obvious that they're going to expand much more globally, and it's us consumers that going to get the end bulk of it. And number three, I think they're going to suffer a lot in terms of consumer retention. When consumers hear about this, I don't think the consumers are not going to like this, especially whatever the new product that will come out. This reminds me of Filson. When Filson was bought out by Bedrock, I think 2011 or 2012. Certainly to me, their quality is not the same. They're not using the same weight fabric as they were before the takeover of Bedrock, but that's another company. So we're talking about Clark's. And so I don't know. I'm not really about this. I know that there's the Clark shoes that have a cult following with their wallabies, desert shoe, obviously, and their boots, and their other mostly leather shoes. I think Clark is much more popular in men's than women's. That's my opinion. I still haven't seen the numbers, but what I'm guessing is certainly Clark's is more inclined to men's than women's. So, I mean, a 195-year-old brand suddenly sold their stake to a private equity firm. Even if they are a private equity firm, they're based in Hong Kong, and I'm not gonna be surprised if this company is owned by China. It's Chinese that is living in China, whatever. So, the most surprising thing is that they want to expand, including China and other Asia Pacific countries. I mean, they didn't do that before. I mean, if they didn't, then hey, Clark's get what it's deserved. So, last topic's automation. Automation in regards to manufacturing, automation in regards to data, automation in terms of processing, automation especially in pack and ship warehouses where everything right now is being ordered online for the most part. And so now that we're in pandemic, a lot of companies, and this is what I've been seeing from a lot of articles and a lot of videos, is that companies are now expediting the making of automation. Automation meaning when you see cars being made by robots, that's what I mean, is that is automation right there where you don't need people. As you know, Amazon is hiring, Walmart is hiring, a lot of companies, a lot of retailers are hiring in regards to their warehouses in terms of the packing and shipping. And so they can't fill up enough people because they need people. And so in terms of hiring so many people, and obviously that takes time, is that they rather have automation. That way it's much more easier, and certainly you don't need to pay people. So they're expediting the makings of that. And automation is also part of AI, but AI is only half of automation. So I want to get this right. Artificial intelligence is only half of automation. So when you see these meat processing factories, pack and ship companies, even FedEx with their separators, shipping separators, and even the postal office, it's all part of automation. And so when we go to the future, I mean, these automations will be basically like robots, and they're not going to be people. And now that we're in a pandemic, we're suddenly learning, hey, I mean, we can't hire enough people to process our orders, our work, whatever, and so on. So we need automation because it's much more efficient. Certainly you don't need to buy more people. It's cheaper, and it just takes time to have it learn, and also to produce the formula to make sure it does its work well. I mean, it does its jobs well. And so automation is going to be interesting in the future, because I mean, cars will start driving itself. I mean, automatic pilot, hopefully someday. And then certainly US, all the shipping carriers, USPS, FedEx, the major ones, and UPS will all have automation in their shipping warehouses, because now they don't need to have a lot more people, and it's much faster. And as you know, that these carriers will start raising up their prices into peak season, which is basically now. And oh man, it's gonna be interesting what they do here. I mean, there's still people going to be hired. Let's not forget that. But I think they want their automations to be made much faster now because of this pandemic. I mean, this pandemic is not over. It's probably going to transition into next year. I mean, it's going to be interesting what happened to automation in the future. But certainly, if you are in the automation business, it's going to be exciting because the acceleration of it being made, it's going to be much faster, and we're going to see a lot that is going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing in front. And so robotics, automation, these numbers, we'll see how they go in the future. And so that basically concludes this Mr. Informal Podcast 130. I go by the name of Mr. Informal. Hopefully you learned something today. Hopefully you listened to me from the beginning to end. And hopefully you learned something and I gave you some insights. And so do not forget to add me on Instagram, MisterInformal. And then check out my website, MrInformal.com. And so I will see you on the next podcast. And please be safe, be well, and stay healthy. Bye-bye.